I now ask Clare Daly of the Socialist Party.
Thanks, Chair. I think the debate has been quite confusing for people over the past period, because the yes side is saying one thing and the no side is saying diametrically opposing views. But I do think we need to remember the debate last time round, when we were told that if we voted for Lisbon 2, it would deliver jobs, and we have a scenario now where more than 100,000 people are, less people are at work now than were at the time of the passing of Lisbon 2. I would also pose the question that why would the government be right on this issue, and why would they be truthful on this, when every other election promise that they stood before the electorate on has been broken. Now, we're being told that this is about voting for stability and voting for growth, as if it was some sort of panacea. 3 countries have ratified this treaty, Greece and Portugal being 2 of them. And if you wanted a synopsis of stability, I don't think you'd be looking for Greece. So it's quite clear that signing this treaty will not deliver stability in any case. And the reason for that is that the problems are far greater than are outlined by this. In actual fact, the economic problems facing Europe are precisely caused by neoliberalism and austerity, the very policies that are being enshrined in this treaty. Because unlike Derek, I'd like to look at the text of this treaty, which there hasn't been a lot of. There is nothing positive in it. It doesn't deal with the bank debt, and it doesn't deal with the chronic numbers of unemployed, 25 million across Europe. The text of the treaty is quite clear. It's not about harmless rules or bookkeeping or housekeeping, as people called it. There is a target in this treaty to cut our structural deficit to 0.5%. The Department of Finance estimates that at the time in 2015, our structural deficit will be 3.7%. To bridge that gap from 3.7 to 0.5% will require an extra cuts of 5.7 billion on top of the 8 billion that are already planned over the next 3 years. 5.7 billion in new cuts and extra taxation, household taxes, water charges, cuts in domiciliary care, in SNAs, in health budgets and so on. On top of that, Article 4 requires us to reduce the excess of our debt to GDP ratio. Anything above 60% has to be cut by 1/20th every year. Again, the estimate by the government departments, not by us, is that our debt at the required time will be 120%, requiring further cuts of over 4 billion a year. That's a fact. That's writing in law austerity. You can call it a rule, call it what you like, but it is precisely the economic policies that have been implemented over the past 4 years which have already led to a situation not of growth, but of 6 successive years of a reduction in domestic demand. And if you counterpose those policies across Europe, which is being proposed, all of the European economies will be cutting back. To meet those targets, you'll be taking 166 billion out of the European economy. So where's the growth and the exports going to come from? For small businesses and employers in this country, it's a nightmare. 5 businesses a year closing down last year. It's going to be very much more of the same. And if we don't reach those targets, penalties can be imposed on us. So in actual fact, what it's saying as well is that we can vote for any government we like, but they are going to have to be bound by these policies which are built into our constitution, and that is the text of it. The idea that if we don't do this, we won't get access to funds. That's the only justification for this very bad treaty that has been put up. Well, we don't like it, but we have to put it in, because if we don't, we won't get access to the ESM. That is absolute and utter rubbish. The ESM has not been ratified yet. In order to set it up, it needs all of the member states, including Ireland, to amend the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union. Ireland can object to that and veto that if the Irish people reject this treaty. Apart from that, the ESM itself, the very basis of its foundation, the reason why it's been set up, is to safeguard the financial stability of the euro as a whole. Now, why would the European Union deny Ireland funds? If, as Derek says, there's nothing in this anyway, sure, the rules are there in anyway, why would they cut us off from funding and trigger the precise scenario that the scheme was set up to avoid, a contagion throughout the European Union? You can see the measures they're desperately clamouring to implement to avoid Greece going down that road. Ireland, who's been good by comparison, of course they're going to move in the same way. If you even think about it logically, if they don't give Ireland access to the funds, it's their own banks who are going to be the loser on that, because they need to give us the money to pay them back for their loans. That's why we're borrowing from, is that 1 minute or half a minute? So look, that's the written text of it. Why would we need bailout funds? To pay back bank debts that were never ours. That's the nub of this crisis. We have to go back to that. We have to write off that bank debt. We should be taxing the wealthy in this state to generate more revenue, and we should be using that money for a real programme of job creation. Over 1,000 billion has been loaned by the European Central Bank at 1% interest rates to bail out the banks. Similar arrangements should be made to national governments to put people to work to end the chronic unemployment. If we vote yes, we're giving the government a mandate for more cuts. If we vote no, we're standing shoulder to shoulder with the growing opposition to austerity throughout Europe.